tongue. I don't know why that's often confused. You guys often confuse, not you guys, but specifically, but AP2 students often confuse sublingual with submandibular, so don't do that. I've got to turn this guy around to look at the ones on the other side. There's the parotid gland, it's on the left side, so that's his left parotid gland on his left side. We also can see his submandibular underneath the mandible. That's why that's submandibular. So on this model, we have a left submandibular, we have a right submandibular, we have a left parotid. We do not have a right parotid because it's been cut off. They wanted to expose the structures underneath it. And we have a right sublingual because things had to be cut away to get to it. Why am I spending time on this? Because torso man or torso woman in the other room is different, or it may be different. There's 3 of them over there. I don't know if they're going to use the one that's like this. So don't just memorize, oh, the parotid was on the left side. No, maybe not. There's one over there, it's on the right side. That's what I'm telling you. It's the same 3 glands though, parotid, submandibular, and sublingual. Don't memorize right and left by what you see here. It could be different over there. So it's different as far as right and left is concerned. That's your questions on slide 3. Make sure you can find that on torso man or torso woman if you prefer. Slide number 5 talks about the tongue specimen. This is the papilla. I've only given you 3 to know. There's only 3 here. We've got the filiform papilla, fungiform papilla, and circumvallate papilla. I was nice to you on the quiz. I gave it to you as a multiple choice. On the practical, you're going to have to spell circumvallate. Okay, so make sure you spell it, and make sure you spell it. Yes, spelling counts. And papilla, don't leave off the papilla. By the way, it's P-A-P-I-L-L-A. If you want to add the E on the end, you may. If you don't, that's okay too. E makes it plural. When a word ends in a vowel, you don't make it plural by adding an S, you add an E at the end. So that's what they did here. I don't care which way you did. You want to make it singular or plural, I'm fine with either way. But you need to put papilla down. I need to know that you know that these things are papilla. So what we have for this, we had a tongue specimen. Yeah, that's what it looks like right here on slide number 6. There's the tongue specimen. Yeah, I know they labeled the epiglottis on this. We will be doing respiratory system after the midterm. And when we do respiratory system, this same exact specimen will be out. He will be on your final also. This specimen will also be on your final to cover the larynx and the cartilages of the larynx, which include the epiglottis here. That's why I don't ask epiglottis on the midterm. I'm saving that for your respiratory system. So what do we have here? That V-shaped one there. If I put a pin in that, yeah, that's big enough. I could put a pin in one of those papillae there and ask you, what structure is that? That is circumvallate papilla. What about the other 2? I'm just going to stick a pin somewhere in the anterior 2/3 of this tongue. And then I will phrase the question as such. What is the name of the structure found in this region of the organ that do have taste buds? And what would you put down? Fungiform papilla. Or what is the name of the structure found in this region of this organ that do not have taste buds? And if I ask it that way, you will put down filiform papilla. Okay? That's it. Only 3 things to remember for 2 questions. That should be an easy 4 points. But that's up to you. What else do we have on this PowerPoint? On the last slide, we have the tooth. So we have a tooth poster, much like what is hanging on the back there, on those shelves there. Yeah, all the stuff around it won't be on there, but we have a, what do you need to know? The stuff in yellow, except the root, I never asked that. Crown, if I point to the white stuff there, I want crown. Don't give me enamel, that's just the coating of it. So that's the crown. What's the dentin? That's the yellow, anywhere in the yellow, okay? Anywhere in the yellow is fair game. If I point to it there, or there, or there, the yellow stuff, what is it? Dentin, D-E-N-T-I-N, dentin. What about this cavity that's right? That is the central pulp cavity. Name it as I labeled it, and as this picture labeled it. It is the central pulp cavity. If you want to put central pulp chamber, that's fine too. But make sure you add the central in there, because that's the way I named it. And the other thing is the root canal. If I label right in there, that is the root canal. Root canal, central pulp cavity, dentin, or crown. All that for 2 questions. There will be 2 questions on that poster. That finishes this PowerPoint. Any questions before I leave this? Everybody's good? Everybody's good. Excellent. Okay, then we did abdominal pelvic organs. NCAT dissection. So this is the name of this PowerPoint, the one that has the NCAT dissection on it. Look what slide I am on. I am starting from slide number 2. This is giving you the structures you need to identify in the stomach. How do we do stomach? You'll see it's number 4 here. That's the specimen. We did a human stomach specimen that we have over there. I'm not using the plastinated model because it's a few things that I like to name that's not on that. So I'm going to be using the same original stomach specimen that's preserved in the formalin. You need to know all the regions: the cardiac region, the fundus, the corpus, and the pylorus. I'll show you those when I pull up the picture on slide 4. Be able to identify any of, and I will specifically ask you, what region is this? So you know to give me the region. Read the question. If I ask for the region, give me the region. What else could I ask? Cardiac sphincter, you can cross that off. Why? Because our specimen, it's so chewed up. 3 years ago I used to ask it, but it's had so many pins in it, you can't even see the sphincter anymore. You used to be able to see a piece of the esophagus also, that broke off. So yeah, you can't, don't worry about number 1. But pyloric sphincter, it shows up real nicely on there. Okay, pyloric sphincter is fair game, and rugae are fair game. By the way, the E at the end of this also means plural. Ruga is one of them, but rugae is the plural. Those are the temporary folds or ridges that you see in the lining. Okay, that will be structure. What structure is this? Okay, and that'll be pyloric sphincter if I point to that. And if I put a pin in one of those folds, what structure is this? That will be rugae. So let's go to the picture. Let me show you where they all are. Slide 4, there's the picture. That's the labeled one. 3 is unlabeled if you want to practice doing this. Put a pin right there. What region is this? That's the cardiac. By the way, this is the top over here. It's kind of tilted. Okay? But there's the top. So there's cardiac. What region is this? Fundus. What region is this? Corpus. What region is this? Pylorus. This is where it starts to get narrow. That's pylorus. What structure is this? Right there. That's the pyloric sphincter. What structure are these folds here? That's the rugae. That's it. 2 structures, 4 regions. 2 questions. Okay? That's stomach. Next slide is going to start listing some of these things that you need to know. I will define for you where you need to know them from. Slide number 5. Duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. We don't have human specimens of that, but that's in your cat. You need to know where the duodenum is. That's the first C region of the small intestines that comes out for the stomach. When the small intestines first comes off the stomach in the cat, it kind of makes a C. If I put a pin in that, you should know that that is the duodenum. Yes, duodenum is also a correct pronunciation of this, by the way. I kind of prefer calling it duodenum just because it makes it easier to, not easier, that's terrible English, John. Duodenum, that tells you how to spell it. Duo, D-U-O, denum, D-E-N-U-M, okay? So spell it correctly, please. Duodenum. The next 2 sections, jejunum and ileum, and you don't know where one begins and the other one ends. So the way I do that in the cat is I will just pin in no particular area of the small intestines, somewhere in the middle, and I will ask you, what is the second segment or the middle segment of this structure? What's the middle segment of that small intestines? Jejunum, J-E-J-U-N-U-M, jejunum. 2 U's, 1 E. The E comes first. 2 U's and 1 E. Please spell this right. Jejunum. It's not jejunum, okay, or any other combination of that. Jejunum. 2 U's, 1 E. The E comes first. Ileum is the final segment. If I ask you, what is the final segment or the 3rd segment of this structure? And then you would give me ileum. Ileocecal sphincter will be on the specimen of the human cecum that we have. So there's the, we can see that sphincter on that. I'll show you, that's on slide 7. I'll come to that in a minute. What about this villi implicae circularis? That's for your lecture guy. He'll ask you that stuff. So I'm not asking you villi or implicae circularis. Okay? Let's continue with some more of these structures. Cecum, again, that's going to be on the human specimen of the cecum that we have, which has the ileum attached, has the ileocecal sphincter attached. Also, on the cat, though. It shows up real nicely on the cat. They have a cecum. You can see that little pouch right where the large intestines is starting, and that will be the cecum. If I put a pin right in that little pouch, right at the very, very beginning of the colon of the cat, that is the cecum that I'm looking for. If I put a pin anywhere else along the colon, or if you prefer large intestines of the cat, you don't have to give me the region, you don't have to tell me if it's ascending, transverse, or descending, just tell me that's the colon or that's the large intestines. Why? Because to do this, I pull it out of the cat, it's not in its anatomical position. I could do like I do with the small intestine, what's the first or second? You know what, I'd give up on that. I'm just gonna ask you, what is that? Just give me colon or large intestines, that's sufficient, okay? It's not in its anatomical position, so you really can't tell otherwise. Sigmoid colon, they don't have one. What about the appendix? That, of course, cats don't have that either, but that will be on that cecum specimen, the human cecum specimen. So let's bring that up. Here we are, we're going to that now. That's slide 7. This is the cecum specimen. This is a human specimen. There's 2 of them in that pan. One of them is much, much smaller. It's just, one's a big guy, one's a little guy. That's the difference, okay? It's, other than that, structures are identical. That's the ileum. This pouch here, below where the ileum comes in, that's the cecum. Ileum, cecum. What's the stick going through? The sphincter. Iliocecal sphincter. What's this little guy here? Appendix. And what's this going to? Ascending colon. Recap, let's, ileum, cecum, iliocecal sphincter, appendix, ascending colon. That's simple. 2 questions. 2 of those will be pointed to. Okay? Simple? Everybody got that? Any questions? Okay. Next, we'll be talking about the liver. Yeah, on the cat, notice I didn't highlight anything. Well, does that mean I'm not going to ask you liver at all? No, if I put a pin in the cat, a liver though, that's all you have to give me. That's the liver. Know what the liver looks like in the cat. You do not have to identify the lobes, because you're not allowed to touch it, and these things rotate in there, and so you know, I can figure out the lobes, but you're not allowed to touch it. You're not allowed to orient yourself at all with it. You can't see all of them at the same time, usually. So I don't ask, and you guys aren't interested in cat lobes anyway. We're going to do the human one now, okay? You need to know the lobes of the human. How? We have a human specimen. There it is over there on the counter over there. So at some point, if you haven't done it already, do it before you leave tonight. This is it. This is it. After tonight, you're done. You can't come in here next week and see that. That's going to be set up where? You saw the sign when you came in, right? Your midterms in 223, of course. That's where that's going to be. It's going to be set up for the midterm. You're not going to get to see it again. And seeing it on the picture, man, that just doesn't do it. You can't see the structures as well. So you need to know the lobes. You know, at some point, I do need to take the highlight off of this. I never asked caudate lobe on it. Why? Not because it's not there. It's hidden. You got the portal vein and portal artery cover it, and the biliary ducts covering it. There's too many structures covering it. So I just avoid any complications as far as, you know, what are you pointing to, Professor? I can't tell. I don't ask it. The other ones, yeah, you can see them. I kind of edited my PowerPoint here because I put on the liver, You know, I used to assume you all knew that was the liver, and last year one of the students came up to me and didn't know what it was. So it's like, yeah, I need to know you know that's the liver. Okay, that's pretty basic, I understand. But so when I point to the left lobe of the liver, you need to tell me that is the left lobe of the liver, or the right lobe of the liver. Quadrate lobe of the liver. What else is on that specimen? We have the gallbladder and we have some ducts. So let me go to that slide to identify for you what you need to be able to point to. I'm not going to the picture yet. I'm going to, yeah, you remember this slide. Boy, that was a tricky question on the quiz, right? 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3, they are on that specimen. The hepatic duct, that's one coming out of the liver. The cystic duct, that's one coming out of the gallbladder. And then they come together and they create the common bile duct. So you need to be able to identify all 3 of those on that specimen. So that's what's on that specimen. The 3 lobes, the 3 ducts, and there's a spleen. Don't forget the spleen. Yes?
So we're identifying the liver in the cat, and then we're identifying the ducts in the specimen of the human.
Yep. And the lobes in the human. On that specimen, there's 4 questions. The only one. They spend so much money on that, and we're gonna make sure we get our money's worth out of it. So there's it, that's the picture of it. Again, you know, yeah, the ducks are in there, they're kinda hard to see, right? Everything's kinda dark here, but if you go over there and look at it, you can see them. You can see them easily. I think so, and I got terrible eyes, so if I can see them, you can see them. So let's go through this. It's upside down, don't forget. This has been flipped over. Why? So we could see the posterior side and see the gallbladder and see those ducts. So right there, the biggest lobe, that's the right lobe of the liver. If I put a pin in that, what is that? Right lobe of the liver. What's that? Left lobe of the liver. What's that? Quadrate with a Q, quadrate lobe of the liver. Why is it up there? Because it's upside down. Remember, quadrate's usually the inferior one, but there it is up there. What else do we have? Gallbladder. The duct coming out of the gallbladder, there it is, right there. Cystic duct. Cystic from now on. Beyond this class, even if you hear cystic anything, they're referring to gallbladder. Okay? That's refers to hepatic duct. There it is right there coming out of the liver. That's the hepatic duct right there. Hepatic, anytime you hear hep something, that's liver. Hepatitis, inflammation of the liver. That's where that comes from. Hepatic duct, cystic duct, there it is, they came together, common bile duct. And over here, that big guy there, that's the spleen. That's what a human spleen looks like. Pretty big sucker. Yes?
Is the example during the exam gonna be set up just like that with the quadrate lobe is on top?
Yes, just like that. I kind of try to lift it up a little bit to make it stand up a little bit more, just because it makes it easier to see the ducts. But yeah, just like, it's going to be upside down, just like that. It's the only way you can see all of this stuff. So 4 questions on that specimen. Any questions? Everybody's good? That pretty much covers our human specimen. Our cats. Our cats, let's start talking about the cats. I kind of gave you a little preview when we talked about liver, right? I'm going to start reminding you about the mesentery, because that was on another PowerPoint, which I'm not going to go over, because it's just the mesentery on there that you're going to be quizzed on, tested on. There's the mesentery proper. There are 2 other mesenteries on your cats that you need to be able to see and identify. When I point to the duodenum, there's mesentery coming off the duodenum. If I put a pin in that and ask you what is this structure, mesoduodenum. That is the mesoduodenum. Just put MESO, meso, in front of the word duodenum or duodenum. And now you got mesoduodenum. What's the other mesentery? The mesocolon. So if I take the large intestines, or if I take the colon, stretch it out, and then put a pin through that structure that's attached to it, through the mesentery that's attached to it, that's mesocolon. Just put meso, M-E-S-O, in front of the word colon, and you've got mesocolon. So you need to know, what mesentery do you need to know? Mesoduodenum, mesentery proper, and mesocolon. Be able to find all 3 of those in the cat. If you can't, make sure you do that tonight before you leave. Okay? That's from slide 11. On slide 12, we got a picture of the liver. We got a picture of the gallbladder. Yeah, you know what you know the story here. Some of these livers don't look anything like that. Some are gray, some are brown, some are black. I mean, gallbladders, that's a nice green one. Yeah, good luck with that. Some are gray, some are black. They all look different. So make sure you can identify. I call it the deflated balloon. That's what it looks like to me. There was a balloon in there, somebody popped it, and it's all shriveled up. That's the gallbladder in the cat. The liver, doesn't matter what lobe I put my pin in. Just tell me that's the liver. I know that's the liver. That's good enough for me. Don't forget this guy here. I don't talk about him enough. That's the diaphragm. And you should be able to spell diaphragm. It has a G in there, and it's right before the M. D-I-A, fram, P-H-R-A-G-M. Diaphragm, D-I-A-P-H-R-A-G-M. When I was a student, I'd walk around the house going diaphragm, so I wouldn't forget the G. But yeah, my wife thought it was nuts. But diaphragm, liver, gallbladder. That's all we're pretty much seeing on this picture, so we need to go some other pictures here. So what are we looking at here? I can't see a diaphragm on this cat, but there's the liver, there's the gallbladder, there is the stomach, you should know stomach, there is the duodenum, the first part of the small intestines coming out of the stomach. We can see the kidney there, that's fair game. You've got right and left kidney, there's two kidneys, so don't forget right and left. If I pin that, that would be the right kidney. Over here in the left lateral gutter, that's where you will find the spleen. And you know the game with the spleen here, they look very different from cat to cat. Some are huge, some are small, some are brown, some are, and the whole thing again, right? They look different, so make sure you can identify spleen. And then you've got the small intestines all in here. Duodenum there, I put a pin in that. What's the middle segment of that structure? The middle segment of that is the jejunum, 2 U's, 1 E, and the E comes first. What's the final segment of this structure? Ileum, don't forget that. Then you've got large intestines coming off of it. The little pouch at the very beginning of the large intestine, I pull it out so it's obvious that the difference between small intestines and large intestines. You will see the cecum. You'll see ileum going at a right angle, right into the large intestines, and right above that, that pouch. Yeah, normally it's not above it, is it? It's down inside underneath. But because I pull it out, it'll be above it, and it'll be cecum. So make sure you can identify cecum. Off of the colon, you will see mesocolon. Off of the duodenum, mesoduodenum. And mesentery proper, I already showed you that. We'll fan it out, and then you can see the mesentery proper. Here we can see the tail of the pancreas. Yeah, I'm not going to label it that way. I'll lift the stomach up, use one of those probes that's in that wood block there, hold the stomach up, and then point to the organ that's underneath there. Boy, I wish the pancreas in your cats look like that. They don't look anything like that. That's nice and healthy looking pancreas. This cat probably died about 5 minutes before they dissected them. Usually they're falling apart, they're all crumbly. But if they give me a good one, I will point to that. It's underneath the stomach. What other structure did you learn about that's underneath the stomach, besides arteries, underneath the stomach? What other structures under there that you learned about? Nothing. You didn't learn about anything else under there. So if I point to a structure underneath the stomach, what am I asking you? Pancreas. There you go, pancreas. If you're not 100% sure, it's got to be pancreas. That's the only thing underneath the stomach there that you learned about. There's other stuff there, but that's all you learned about. So, okay, that's that picture. Slide 15, I love putting these side by side because this demonstrates the differences between cats, how they can look so drastically different. Look at the liver in this guy, that thing is huge, and the gallbladder here. Look at the liver in that guy, it's a different color, much smaller. Look at the stomach in this guy, you can barely see him because the liver is big and he's much smaller. Look at the stomach in that guy, that's a fat cat. Huge stomach, and that thing is full. He just ate a meal. Didn't make it, but he ate a meal. Okay, up there you got the diaphragm, you got liver, you got gallbladder, you got stomach. There's the spleen over here, there's the spleen over there. You got small intestines. Okay, so I just want to compare the two sides, and you know the spleen is going to be up here in the left lateral gutter. That's where you're going to find the spleen. Don't worry about the lobes of the liver, even though they're labeled that. More structures. What else? What have we left off? Don't forget about the omentum, greater omentum specifically. I never asked lesser omentum. I could because it's up there in the lesser curvature of the stomach, but I run out of questions. I think there's more important structures than that. So greater omentum. This is a pretty sparse one here. One last year there was one that they put out there. The greater omentum was so robust and fatty and oily. It was so thick, I had like about 20 students put down, they thought it was the small intestines. But it wasn't, it was greater omentum. If it's something very fatty, very oily, that's greater omentum. Okay, so make sure you can identify greater omentum. There's the stomach in this cat, there's the liver, there's the diaphragm, there's the gallbladder. Let's not forget him, way down here. And boy, do these look drastically different from one cat to the next. This one looks like a tiny little marble. We've seen cats here, the thing is like, the wall is like paper thin. You can read a paper through it, and then it's real big. So don't forget urinary bladder. By the way, if you just put bladder down, it's just wrong. why, I don't know if you think it's the gallbladder. Okay, you need to tell me you know it is the urinary bladder. Okay, so make sure you, this is a test. Make sure you tell me what you know. I don't know what's in here unless you put it down on the paper. Urinary bladder. Okay, this slide is showing the duct system in the cat. Yeah, forget it, don't worry about that. I'm not gonna ask you that in the cat. We're doing that in the human, that's more important to you. Okay, over here, let's, again, look at some organs. There's your liver, there's your gallbladder. We already did this picture, but we'll do it again. There's the stomach, the right kidney, the duodenum, parts of the small intestines, jejunum, 2 U's, 1 E. E comes first. In the middle, that's the middle part of this structure. The third part is the ileum. Don't forget pancreas is under the stomach here, spleen, large intestines with the colon at the beginning of it. Be able to identify all of that. Remind you once again. Yeah, we did that one. But remember, the stomach can look very different from cat to cat. Any questions about the organs of the abdominal pelvic cavity in cats or any of the human specimens? Because we're done with this. We're done with the. By the way, how many questions? 10 on the cat. So there'll be 5 cats devoted to asking you questions on the organs of the abdominal pelvic cavity. Not just digestive organs. Remember, there's spleen in there, there's kidneys in there, there's urinary bladder, there's the diaphragm, there's, I think that's it. The rest is the digestive system. Okay? Everybody's good? Mm-hmm. Look good. From here, we move on to the circulatory system. So PowerPoint I am on, circulatory system, look to the left. What slide number? I am starting with slide number 5. I am starting with the coronaries. These are the coronary arteries. These are the arteries that supply blood to the heart muscle itself, to the myocardium itself. There they are. You need to be able to identify all, well, not really the left coronary. I can see the left coronary on the one specimen that I am going to use for this. But to put a pin in it, it'll be hard to do, so I'm not going to do the left coronary. But the 2 branches of the left coronary, they show up real nicely on these brand new, very expensive specimen we got there on slides 6 and 7. I'll show them to you in 1 minute. But yeah, anterior interventricular branch of the left coronary and circumflex branch of, yeah, I want it written out totally like that. This is a test. I want to know that you know the whole ball of wax here. So make sure you put it all down. Yeah, so I edited this. The PowerPoint I first sent you didn't have that on there. If you want this with this on there, just email me. I'll send it. You know, how hard is that? Click, 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 you got it. No big deal. Okay, I just reply to your email, and then I'll attach this, and then you'll have, I'll attach the whole PowerPoint, and then you'll have it if you want. Or if you're taking notes and you got it, you're happy that you have it, that you're happy you're not going to forget it for the midterm, I'm fine with that too. It's up to you. Okay? The right coronary shows up real nicely on these specimens, and the marginal branch of the right coronary and the posterior interventricular branch of the right coronary. These all show up very nicely. So let's stop talking about it. Let me show you then. Slides 6 and 7. This is the specimens. That's the first one. So whenever you come to the human heart, orient yourself by finding pulmonary trunk first. As soon as you see pulmonary trunk and you have identified that, you know that is the anterior side of the heart. Now you've got everything, you can visualize everything from there. Okay? At least for me. So I recommend you do the same. There it is, that's pulmonary trunk. So that's anterior side of the heart. So there's ascending aorta, there's aortic arch. Now you're oriented. Now you know where you are. What are you looking for? Off this aorta. There it is. Look at that. That thing is beautiful. Right coronary. You can't miss it. It's right there. Okay. If we could talk, we tell you. I'm right coronary. Okay. Branch off the right coronary here, and marginal branch of the right coronary. Marginal branch of the right coronary. Going to the anterior side of the heart. Where's the other branch? I want to follow this around to the posterior side of, that's where this is going. Where is this continuing? Here it is. It's continuing around to the posterior side of the heart. Here it is. That is the posterior interventricular branch of what? The right coronary. So there's the posterior interventricular branch of the right coronary. This is this turned around so we can see the posterior side. Posterior interventricular branch of the right coronary. Marginal branch of the right coronary artery. So what about the left side? Left side, well, it's coming off the aorta underneath here, so we can't see it from this view. It's behind pulmonary trunk here. We can see the one branch coming around from anterior, coming posterior here. So what is this one coming from anterior going to posterior? That's the circumflex branch of the left coronary. There it is, circumflex branch of the left coronary right there. Yeah, we got a better picture of that on the next slide. Next slide, I use the other specimen to show that. So left coronary, if you look at this specimen and look inside there, you can see it. You can see it coming right out of the ascending aorta. It's underneath the pulmonary trunk though, that's why it's hard to put a pin on that and label it. But there it is, anterior interventricular branch of the left coronary. Anterior interventricular branch of the left coronary. What's this one going around towards the posterior? Circumflex branch of the left coronary. So there you go. You got the two branches of the left coronary, you've got the right coronary and its two branches. 2 questions will be on the practical for your coronaries. Any questions about the coronary arteries and how I'm going to ask it? It'll be on these specimen here. No? Everybody's good? Excellent. Because then we have the other human heart. This is the one that's preserved in formalin. What did I say? Identify pulmonary trunk, and now you can have a picture of where everything is. There it is right there. Right front and center. The big, huge blood vessel right front, that's pulmonary trunk. Just right and to it, just to the right of it, not our right, the patient's right. Okay, there it is. Ascending aorta. By the way, that's the coronary coming off of it, but you know, they don't show up well on this. I like the other specimen better. So there's ascending aorta, there's aortic arch. As it comes around, it becomes descending aorta. What am I using this for? Yeah, these branches up here. I want the branches off the aortic arch. You remember that? You should, you just got quizzed on it. Okay, brachiocephalic, left common carotid, left subclavian. There they are. Boom, boom, boom. This brachiocephalic, on my picture here, I'm sorry he did not expose it when he took the picture and put this on our Panther web page. That's where I got this from. But the 2 branches are coming off it, and you can see it if you go look at that specimen. If you have not seen it yet, do it tonight before you leave. What are they? Right subclavian, right common carotid. So across the top, right subclavian, right common carotid, left common carotid, left subclavian. The easy way to remember that. The 2 common carotids are in the middle. Well, that makes sense. Your carotid pulses are going up your neck, right? So the 2 common carotids are in the middle. The 2 subclavians are on the outside. The 2 common carotids are in the middle. The 2 subclavians are on the outside. Right, left, left. Right, left, left. I don't know why AP2 students mix that up a lot, but you do. Okay, so don't mix that up. The 2 subclavians are on the outside, the 2 common carotids on the inside, the 2 right ones are on the right side, the 2 left ones are on the left side. Make sure you can do that. And don't forget pulmonary trunk, ascending. I had to ask pulmonary trunk on this. Also don't forget this stuff over here. Yeah, that was on your test today. Parietal pericardium. If you just put pericardial sac for that, though, I'd be happy. It behoves you to go over there and feel that thing. It feels like leather. Man, is that stuff tough. It really feels tough. But that's the pericardial sac or the pericardium. Specifically parietal pericardium. If I ask it on the test, I don't care if you put parietal down or not. Pericardium is good enough for me. So we have 2 questions on the coronaries. We have 2 questions on this. We already have 4 questions on the human heart. What do we have down here? We've got the sheep heart. You know what else we have looking like the sheep heart? the human heart again. So you'll get 2 more questions on the human heart here. That means 6 questions on the human heart. And then you'll get 2 more questions on this guy here, the sheep heart. So this is reverse. Yeah, look on the bulletin board. What does it say? It says you have 6 questions on the sheep heart and 2 questions on the human heart. Yeah, I think you all rather have it the other way anyway, and that's what I'm doing. You have 6 questions on the human heart, 2 questions on the sheep heart. Now, all of these structures I'm about to go over here on the sheep heart, it's the same for that human heart on slide 14. Same stuff. All the same. Okay, so it shouldn't matter to you, but we'll do both just in case. One thing you have to do as soon as you get to this station and see this heart cut in half, remember that this guy here was on top and he's flipped, he's turned over. So everything that was on right is now on the left, and everything that's on left is now on the right. So how do you determine which side is right, which side is left? The thickness of the ventricle wall. The thick side is left, the thin side is right. Notice how things are reversed over here. Here's the right side, because that's the thin wall. Here's the left side, that's the thick wall. It's reverse. Be sure you do that, otherwise you're going to get questions wrong. For instance, the names of the valves, the names of the chambers. For instance, if I point to that, and this is how we'll ask it. What chamber is this? What chamber is that? It's on the right side. It's below the valve. That's the right ventricle. What chamber is that? Right atrium. What chamber is that? Left ventricle. What chamber is that? Left atrium. So everything's reversed over here now. What chamber is that? Right ventricle, because that's the thin wall. What chamber is that? Left ventricle. What chamber is that? Left atrium. What chamber is that? Right atrium. You got the chambers? You got that figured out? Any questions? Everybody's good? Excellent. Now that you got the chambers, what about the structures? What structure is that? It's the right side. That's the right side. It's between the right atrium and right ventricle. What valve is on that? That's the valve, by the way. What valve is that? Tricuspid. On the right side, it's the tricuspid valve. What structure is, and I'm not going to tell you it's a valve. You need to tell me it's the valve. And if you don't put valve down, it's going to be wrong. What structure is that? That's the bicuspid, or if you prefer, mitral is fine. Bicuspid valve or mitral valve. Same thing here. What structure is that? Tricuspid. Why tricuspid? Because that's the thin wall, that's the right side. Tricuspid's on the right. Okay? And that's the bicuspid. Okay, now notice before I pointed here, said what chamber is this, even though I had my light right on that thing there. Now if I put the same pin there and I say what structure is that, that's different. What structure is that? Or that, or that, or that, or why are you bouncing this around, Professor? Or that, or that. Those are all the same thing. That, those are all the same thing. What are they going to? They are all going to these cords that attach to the valves. The name of the cords, chordae tendineae. You need to know that. I will put a sticker on those cords or a pin and say, what's that structure? That would be the chordae tendineae. What about here, or here, or here? What are they? Papillary muscles. Those are the papillary muscles. P-A-P-I-L-L-A-R-Y, muscles. Papillary muscles. So you need to know papillary muscles, chordae tendineae, the tricuspid and bicuspid valve, the chambers, all 4 of them. And what's this guy right here? Interventricular septum. Interventricular septum. He goes all the way up. He's not going to a chordae tendineae or a valve. That muscle there is the wall between the 2 ventricles. That's why it is the interventricular septum. That's it. That's it on the sheep heart. Let's look at the human heart and see how it compares. Everything's the same, with one exception. The sheep heart, I did not point to the interatrial septum because we had pulmonary trunk and aorta in the way. They were there, but it kind of gets confusing with the blood vessels there. But notice on the human heart, they cut it differently. That's interatrial septum. That's interatrial septum. That's fair game on the test. I can point to that and ask you, what structure is that? That's between the atria. This is a human heart. That's interatrial septum. What about everything else? The same. There's the thick wall, that's left. There's the thin wall, that's right. Thin wall, that's right. Thick wall, that's left. What chamber is that? Left ventricle. Chamber is that? Left atrium. Chamber is that? Right ventricle, right atrium. What structure is that? It's on the right side, tricuspid valve. What structure is that? On the left side, mitral or bicuspid valve. What's these fibers? Oh, look at that. Those are pretty, man. I love that. How can I not ask that? Yeah, I'm doing that. Put a sticker on that sucker. What's this? What is this? Chordae tendineae. Chordae tendineae. I used to have to use that stupid red plastic model. It gives me chills just thinking about it. They were terrible. Plastic cords. Ugly. Yeah, capillary muscle, papillary muscle, papillary muscles, papillary muscle. Why? Because they're going to the chordae tendineae, which go to the valves. So this has papillary muscles also. Interventricular septum, the chambers, everything else is the same. I don't ask blood vessels on either that sheep heart or this cross section of the heart. I ask those on the whole heart thing, so that's why I don't do it there. 2 questions on this, 2 on the sheep heart, 2 on the whole human heart in the specimen, and 2 on the coroners. There's your 8 questions. Any questions on the heart? That's it. That's it. Okay, what about the conduction system of the heart? You will have an ECG tracing on your test. It will just be a bare, naked ECG tracing with no markings on it at all, no circles or anything like this. Will you see on there? You'll see the 3 deflections, that deflection, that deflection, that deflection. You need to be able to tell me what it is, what deflection that is, and what it represents. I'll point to 2 of them. And then you tell me what it is and what it represents. For instance, if I point to that one, that is the P wave. And what does it represent? Atrial depolarization. If I point to that one, what is that? That's the QRS complex. What does it represent? Ventricular depolarization. If I point to that one, what's that? That's the T wave, and that represents ventricular repolarization. That's it. I'm giving you 3 things to know. 2 of them will be on the test. That's pretty simple. Any questions? Okay? Everybody's good? Yeah, as far as all the stuff that can go wrong, that's for your lecture guy. He'll ask you that kind of stuff. Okay, after this we did arteries, arterial system. How will you get tested on arteries? The CAT. This is all in the CAT. You have 12 questions on arteries in the CAT. That means there's going to be 6 stations of CATs devoted to asking arteries. How will I divide this? The upper arteries, I keep it real basic, and just the biggest ones. I'm only going to ask you 4 from the upper half of the CAT, which means you're going to get 8 from the lower half of the CAT. There are many more lower half arteries than there are upper half arteries. So what are the ones in the upper half? Aortic arch, I have asked that. If I point to that arch, aortic arch. What artery is that? The aortic arch. Okay, what about the 2 branches of the aortic? Brachiocephalic, sure, that's fair game. What about left subclavian? Sure, that's fair game. What about right subclavian, of course? Then right common carotid, of course, left common carotid. Do not get thrown by where I put that pin in there. Remember, the common carotids go all the way up to the larynx. So it could be up high. If it's on the left side, it's left common carotid. On the right side, right common carotid. And what else do we have? Nothing on this page. Only what does the subclavian arteries end as? Past that? Brachial. Yep. I don't ask axillary. I'll tell you why in a minute. But brachial is fair game, right or left. I'll be way out in the arm. There's only one thing way out there. Why don't I ask axillary? Because where does it begin and where does it end? Axillary is in the axillary region. Well, some of these cats, the arm's down like this. Some of them, they're there. Some of them, they're up like this. You know, where is the axillary region? It varies. It's so subjective as to where it is. You're supposed to be able to tell by identifying the arteries that come off of it, like the VLS, ventral long thoracic, ventral thoracic, and subscapular. Yeah, most of these cats, you can't see those little suckers. So that's not fair to ask you if you can't see the arteries coming off of it. It's so subjective. You know what? I keep away from possible confusion. I don't ask them. I don't ask axillary. You all know it anyway. You all know it's between brachial and subclavian. Okay? Sound good? Besides, I got so many in the lower half that I can ask you. I got so many in the lower half that I can ask you. Any questions about the upper half arteries before I leave this? No? Everybody's good? Excellent. What about the lower half of the calf? Okay, abdominal aorta. Anywhere along it, I could put a pin in there and say, what artery is this? That would be the abdominal aorta. By the way, I would not mark you wrong if you put dorsal aorta, because that would be correct also. But we've been calling it abdominal aorta all along. So abdominal aorta. What about the branches coming off of it? Celiac trunk. I hesitate to say it's the first branch off. Last year they put a cat out there. The celiac trunk was broken. It wasn't on there. So I put my pin in the superior mesenteric. Students, about 20% of the students looked at it and say, oh, that's the first branch, that's celiac trunk. They didn't bother to look to see where it was going to. It was going to the mesentery proper, so it wasn't celiac trunk. Don't be thrown by the fact that some of these cats aren't complete. Some of the arteries are broken. How do you identify it? Look what it's going to. Where does celiac trunk go to? Upper organs, the upper digestive system organs, and the spleen, right? You have the splenic branch, you have two gastrics, you have hepatic. So if it's up high going, and the branches are going up by the liver and up by the stomach and up to the spleen, that's the celiac trunk. If you see superior mesenteric right next to it, then great, now you got them both, you don't have no confusion. But don't rely on that is my message to you. Don't rely on that. Identify arteries by where they are going to. Superior mesenteric will be the next one. That's fair game. That's pretty good. You see it going right to the small intestines mainly. Also sends a branch off to the upper large intestines, like the large colon, the transverse colon. But superior mesenteric. Adrenal lumbar, these are too small. I never asked that. Okay, you'd be lucky to find it in your cats anyway. Renals, yes, that's fair game. Right and left. Notice up to this point I've been leaving off right and left because there is no right and left superior mesenteric. If you put a right or left in there, I get to take a point off of that. There is no right or left superior mesenteric, no right or left celiac trunk. There's only one. Renals, though, one to the right kidney, one to the left kidney. You need right or left. If you leave it off, you're going to lose. Genital arteries, they're too small. We'll cover that with veins. We got some good genital veins. Inferior mesenteric, yeah, that's fair game. There's only one. You'll identify this because it's going to the mesocolon. Yes?
It's like an artery, there is two there or just one?
For which one?
The inferior.
Inferior mesenteric, just one.
So arteries?
Yeah, it shouldn't be one. It should just be artery. Iliolumbar is right before it goes into the external iliac. So there's two iliolumbars, one right, one left. You know this because it's going to the back muscles. That's what this goes to. Right, left iliolumbars. Some cats have good ones, some don't. So which ones did I say don't worry about? Adrenal, lumbar, and genital 3 and 5. So 1, 2, 4, 6, 7. 1, 2, 4, 6, 7. 1, 2, 4, 6, 7. 1, 2, 4, 6, 7. 1, 2, 4, 6, 7. 1, 2, 4, 6, 7. Make sure you can identify them on the cats. That's from page 1. Page 3, or slide 3. Yeah, everything. Everything that's highlighted. This is what I was saying. There's a lot more from the lower half of the cat, and these are all good. We've seen all of these very well. Not in every cat, but and there's not any one cat that has all of these, by the way. So if you've been looking at the same cat every time, you missed some things. Tonight's your last night to do something about it. The next two big branches that come off, this was the quiz question, right? What are they? External iliacs. in the sacral region. External iliacs, right and left. Right and left. After that, internal iliacs, right and left. And right in the middle, between them, caudal. Those are all fair game. Now we have to go back up to the external iliacs and talk about the branches off of that. Just before the external iliac leaves the pelvic cavity, it's going to give off one more branch. That's the right and left deep femoral. I didn't put rights and lefts here, but make sure you do. Right or left deep femoral. The tendency is to forget to put right and left in the leg, and as you go into the leg, like the deep femoral. After the deep femoral comes off, now the external iliac changes names because it's no longer in the pelvic cavity, it's in the thigh region. That's the femoral artery, right and left femoral. And what are the branches off the right and left femorals? All of these right and left: saphenous, superior geniculate, and popliteal. Saphenous, superior geniculate, and popliteal. Don't forget rights and lefts on those. So everything on this page. That's slide 3. If you want to see the list form of this, it's on slide 4, but that's up to you. You don't have to write it down, but there it is. Notice I do have all the rights and lefts on this here. Slide 4. Yes?
Do you want us to write articular, superior articular, or do you want us to write
Either way is fine.
Okay.
You know what? I always revert back to geniculate because that's the way I learned it in podiatry school. That's in medicine. That's what we call it. Genu means knee. And actually, one of my students told me, yeah, that's French for knee too. Genu is French for knee. So that's where that comes from. So that's where you learn in medical school or podiatry school. We always called it geniculate. It wasn't until here that I got this anatomy and looked in the lab books. They call it articulate. Articular is general. That just means a joint. So we always called it geniculate. So on the test, which one? Either way, I don't care. It's good. Final PowerPoint. Here we go. I'm handing these to you, I hope. These are the leukocytes. That's the picture. That's the exact picture you will see. Went to my computer at home, put it on my printer, put it on a piece of photo paper, mounted it on a piece of foam board so I could stick my pins in it. What are they? Basophil, that's the one with the real dark staining granules. Eosinophil with the red staining granules. These two are neutrophils, neutrophil. Lymphocyte, monocyte. Monocyte, lymphocyte, neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil. 2 of them. I'll put pins in 2 of them, and you just need to tell me which one is it. Next one, that was slide 3. Slide 7, blood type. I did the same thing. I printed off this, not the answers, this. How can I stick a pin? The numbers, that's the patient or the person. I keep going back to patient. I'm sorry, I've dealt with patients for 35 years, so. 1, 2, 3, that's their blood. That's number 3's blood, that's number 4's blood, that's number 5's. What happens when you put this in it, when you put this in it, when you put this? So this is agglutination. If it agglutinates, that's positive for that blood type. Or if it agglutinates here, that's positive for RH. When it's positive for RH, you just call it positive. When it's not positive for RH, you call it negative. When it's positive for A, you don't call it positive, you call it A. When it's positive for B, you call it B. When it's positive for A and B, you call it AB. When it's not positive for A or B, you call it O. So there's your blood types. So don't mix up the positives and negatives with RH. This is positive for A, positive for B, AB, positive. Number 3, AB positive. If you can't figure that out, if you're having trouble with that, please see me, come talk to me, and we'll go through it until you get it. Okay? That's it. That should be for giving questions also. Your review is done. The whole rest of this time is totally up to you. If you didn't sign this attendance sheet, please come up and sign it, otherwise you will be marked absent. I don't care if you did the quiz. You have to sign this to not be marked absent.